Hey guys, it's Parzival, and I am back with another Speedpaint and Babble. I apologize about the sound. I'm not sure exactly what's up with my mic. It's acting really funny, and it's very, very low on my end for some reason, and I know that I normally readjust it to be the right sound, or right levels, volume, whatever. I'm not a sound person, unfortunately, but this is still kind of extremely weird to me, so I don't know. I was using it earlier today and then I unplugged it, and then when I tried to go back to it, it's just kind of weird now. But I'll figure it out. It's not overly important right now, I don't think, because I'm sure I'll figure out how to fix it. But I want to get this recorded while it's on my mind, so here we are. Quick info for what's going on the screen. I am drawing an art trade for my friend Pepper. This is their character Odette, and she is a mermaid. And yeah, I just drew this as part of an art trade, and I really liked how it turned out, and I was fortunate enough to have it speed painted and recorded. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of this piece. I don't really have too much to say about it since I don't do some of the stuff that I usually do on it, but I thought it looked nice when I finished. So yeah, that's all I have for that piece overall. But I just wanted to talk about something that was on my mind today, since this isn't a character babble episode. And I was just thinking about going outside your comfort zone and how, as much as we as artists want to grow and want to try and do better and be, you know, better with our style, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to continually go out of your comfort zone to do things. Um, Art by Flan actually posted a video a couple of weeks ago about the obsession with art improvement, and I thought it was really, really interesting to listen to because she said that the focus and hyper focus on trying to get better with all of her art ended up like preventing her from doing anything new because it wasn't something that was better than any of her other pieces thus far. She didn't learn something from it, therefore it wasn't worthy enough to be, something she posted or something she actually drew if she wasn't learning something. And I guess this is sort of related to it. I'm not really sure how to talk about this issue without just sort of telling a bit of a story. So, I have this feeling personally that sometimes when you want to improve the most, you need to stop trying to go out of your comfort zone. And that might sound extremely weird and extremely, what's the word? Like when you're doing something that is the inverse of helping you. Counterproductive, that's it. It might seem kind of counterproductive, but I can think of a couple of times when my art really improved very fast. And sure, one of those times was when I was doing a lot of different style practices and stuff like that, when I was doing a lot of traditional art a couple of years ago. But besides that, the primary one that I'm thinking of is it was probably around 2013, 2012-ish, maybe 2014, but I think it was in 2012, 2013. And I was getting so frustrated with my art because I didn't think I was improving fast enough. So I was having a lot of trouble with anatomy and with things like, trying to make sure things looked right. And it was getting really frustrating for me. So at one point, I just decided, you know what, screw it. I'm not going to care about the anatomy. I'm not going to care about whether it's right or not. I'm just going to draw what I enjoy drawing, even if it's wrong, because at least I will have drawn something. I didn't want to have to worry anymore about how right it looked, because it was really frustrating to me, and I actually improved a lot during that period where I just decided, screw anatomy, I don't care if it's right or wrong, I just want to be able to finish some pieces. And, that was honestly pretty freeing for me, and that was something that I decided that I didn't want to go out of my comfort zone for. I just kind of wanted to draw what I want to draw, even if it was in my comfort zone. I didn't care. But that isn't the primary story in my mind. It's the first one I can think of. But I'm also thinking about, I draw on a Cintiq, or rather a Mobile Studio Pro, which is basically a Cintiq. It's the Mobile Studio Pro 13, so it is its own computer. It has its own screen. I don't have to connect it to my laptop or anything. And this is important because I used to use a Monoprice tablet. That's one of the off-brand, really cheap tablets, but it had a really, really wide drawing space to it, so I never really felt cramped or anything. It was cheap. It was like 30 to 50 bucks, and I could replace it really easily. But when I moved to my Cintiq, it was a Windows based one, which I'm sure to a lot of people that's kind of obvious because like it's its own computer, and most tablet devices or singular computer devices don't run on Apple or Mac. And for full transparency, I use a Mac for my stuff. This is why sometimes I struggle with certain like bug fixes. I'm not really sure how to use my computer, or not use, I know how to use my computer obviously, but I don't really know how to fix certain things because a lot of the stuff that I've experienced or I look up is primarily for Windows and doesn't really help me having a Mac. And this isn't necessarily about like Windows versus Mac or whatever, but the point is, when I first got my new tablet, I didn't know how to use it. I know how to use a Windows computer. I grew up on a Windows, even though I had my own laptop. My family computer was a Windows, even though the laptop was a Mac. So that wasn't as much of the problem. The problem was more, I had to get used to the layout and the drawing of it, and all my programs looked funny because, you know, they were on a Windows computer instead of a Mac computer. The layout was different, and I did not know what I was doing. I also, at the same time, decided that I was going to be a smart person and try and use Paint Tool Sci, because everyone in the world that I know uses Paint Tool Sci because, you know, it's so cool and awesome, and I really do like Paint Tool Sci. I have a lot of fun with it when I use it. But it's not a Mac program. So I'd never been able to even use it before because, you know, I don't have access to it on a Mac. And I was super excited to put it on my Windows, my new Cintiq, and boot it up, and I bought it and everything. I bought it legally because I was super excited, and I obviously had disposable income if I could buy myself a Cintiq. And I tried to use Sci. And it was not intuitive to me. I struggled with it a lot because my standard program, as you can see on the screen, is Photoshop. I use Photoshop Creative Cloud. I have been using Photoshop Creative Cloud. The one thing I used before Photoshop Creative Cloud was Manga Studio 5, which I believe is now Clip Studio Paint. But after I started using Photoshop, I ended up really liking it, and I use that most often. So I haven't used Manga Studio or Clip Studio Paint in a long time. I got used to Photoshop, and I got used to drawing on my super old tablet, the super cheap, super old tablet that was, honestly, now that like I think back on it, it was probably part of a legacy thing, because one time when I tried to get a new one, they didn't have the one I had, and that's around the time I got my Cintiq, so I didn't really need the new one. But my point is, I got into habits that I was used to. I was used to using Photoshop. I was used to drawing on a tablet that I was looking at the screen instead of looking down at the tablet. And this combined caused me a lot of issues, and I didn't think they would, but it really did. It prevented me from drawing as fast or as cleanly as I liked, because not only was I trying to get used to a new tablet, I was also trying to learn an entirely new program with a new user interface, a new set of brushes, a new this, a new that. I was so confused. I couldn't figure out how to do my crisp line art. I couldn't figure out how to do anything that I wanted to do. My shading looked pretty cool, but I couldn't figure out how to cleanly fill in spaces, and I couldn't get the crisp, flat look that I like with my art, and that really frustrated me. And it was to the point where at one point I got a commission, a really big commission, and I had to refund them because I couldn't figure out how to do it on my Cintiq, even though I knew in my head how to draw the figures I want to draw. Whenever I tried, it wouldn't come out right. So I had this Cintiq that I didn't touch for 6 months because I didn't know how to use it. I didn't want to try and struggle through it more. It was really, 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 really hard. And yeah, in theory, I could have just powered through it, and I probably would have been a stronger artist if I had learned Psy and learned how to use the Cintiq at the same time. Might have been a longer process, but I probably would have been a stronger artist for it. I still have Psy on my Cintiq, by the way. However, knowing this didn't get me to go back to using my Cintiq. I didn't want to use it. It wasn't fun for me. So I spent 6 to 9 months only doing traditional art. I did a bunch of sketchbooks. I did a bunch of sketch pages. I did some of my favorite sketchbooks in that time because I was avoiding doing digital art. And the only real cure I ended up having for this is I stopped using Psy. Once I went back to using Photoshop, and I distinctly remember this, I didn't want to use Psy anymore because I wanted to do something familiar. So I downloaded my old Photoshop program and booted it up and tried to draw on it. And I went, oh, this is so much easier than I thought it would be. Why didn't I just use Photoshop? It was the one I was used to. It was the one that I knew how to use. It was one with a UI that I was familiar with because it didn't change too much from my Mac to my Cintiq, even though one was a Mac and one was a Windows. I had to fiddle with a few things and transfer some stuff over, but it worked. And I felt like an idiot. But yeah, I've been kind of rambling, but I guess my point of this story is sometimes when you want to learn something, I think people need to stop thinking, oh, well, I have to go out of my comfort zone to learn as much as possible at once. Because that might just get you running into a wall that you really don't want to work on. Maybe we should consider, instead of trying to learn new things all at once, focusing on one small change at a time. For me, that was going back to something I was familiar with, Photoshop, while trying to learn how to use a tablet I wasn't familiar with, the Cintiq. And that helped. And I might go back to Psy at one point, because I do want to learn how to use that, but that's after using my Cintiq for several months and getting used to it, and learning how to actually, draw on it. And, I feel a lot better and a lot more comfortable now, but I definitely didn't when I was trying to force myself to learn it and go out of my comfort zone just because I thought that was how you're supposed to learn something and force yourself through it. But yeah. I guess that's all I really have for this. It's kind of a bit of a brain dump, so I apologize, but hey, if you have any experiences that you can relate to with this, like things that you didn't go out of your comfort zone for and that actually helped you, feel free to put those down in the comments below. I'd love to hear if this is like a thing that other people have felt that's not just me. And if you think that maybe I was just looking at it from the wrong perspective, I'd also like to hear that too. You can put that down in the comments as well. But yeah, I think that's going to be about it for this video. I am going to sign off and let the outro play. See you guys later. Well, that's the end of this video. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section or contact me on any of my social media, which is linked in the description below. I also have my Patreon there if you guys want to throw a monthly donation at me. Thanks so much for your support. I'll see you next time. Bye!